Good evening. My name is Randi Mansell, and I'm a junior leadership and French major, and I'm this year's recipient of the Marsh Fellowship. I spent this summer working at an organization called Communities and Schools of Richmond, and Communities and Schools of Richmond is a national, Communities and Schools in general is a national nonprofit organization that is leading the way in dropout prevention initiatives. I became interested in working with an organization like Communities and Schools of Richmond because of a class that I completed in my sophomore year called Leadership in the Common Good. And in this class, I completed a paper towards the end of the fall semester in which my group and I kind of looked at the challenges that Richmond public schools are facing. And I came to realize that there were a lot of challenges and that there were very few ways that I felt that I could really help out in order to kind of make Richmond Public Schools a better place to learn and grow. And so I wanted to kind of look into what kinds of organizations in Richmond or nationally help out in these kinds of situations, in these inner city schools where there's a lot of poverty and there's kind of low standards of achievement. So to begin with, I'd just like to share with you some of the challenge that I found both in when I wrote my original paper and what I read this summer. Richmond Public Schools, Richmond City in general, as many of you know, there's a great deal of concentrated poverty. And in Richmond Public Schools in 2009, they recorded a 75.3% free reduced lunch rate. And that's compared to Henrico County, which only had a 46.4% reduced lunch rate. And that is actually up from past years. And that has to do a lot with people leaving the city and vice versa. But it's a pretty high number, and it's a really important indicator of poverty in the city and poverty in the school district. And as many of us know, with poverty and with backgrounds with low income, there's a lot of challenges when students come to school. They have trouble staying in school because they feel they need to work outside of school, or they need to work to provide for their families, or they come to school hungry. There's a lot of challenges that are kind of tossed around, but no one really kind of gives strategies for solving these problems. And as a result, on-time graduation in Richmond Public Schools is only 72%, which actually kind of seems relatively not bad. But when you compare that with the state average of 85.5%, it's a pretty low number. And that means that students, if they make it through high school at all, they're doing it in 5, 6, 7 years, and they're a lot older than the rest of the students that they're going to school with. In addition, this year, Richmond Public Schools failed to make adequate yearly progress as dictated by the No Child Left Behind Act. And what that means, among other things, is that their students aren't performing as well on standardized tests as they should be. And so, as you can see, Richmond has a lot of different difficulties that they are dealing with in their public school system, and Communities and Schools does a lot to work with that. And so one of my major projects this summer was to promote Communities and Schools of Richmond. And so that's what I'm going to take an opportunity to do tonight. You all have the ability to go out and leave this room and to know what this organization is about and to maybe make a change using this organization. And one of the things that they wanted to do as an organization is to become a household name like YMCA. Something that when people say Communities and Schools, you're not, oh, well, what do they do? They want them to know exactly what they do when they hear the name. And so that's part of what I would like to do tonight. As I mentioned before, it's a nonprofit organization focused on dropout prevention. And they have 5 basics, which are on the screen back here. They're a little blurry. And I will mention now that I did not take any of these pictures. These are mostly from their website. It's very difficult to get high school students to bring back forms from their parents signed because they're all underage. So I do not have my own pictures, but these are beautiful pictures of students that I did not work with, but do work with the organization. So these 5 basics are a safe place to learn and grow, a one-on-one relationship with a caring adult, a healthy start and healthy future, a marketable skill to use upon graduation, and a chance to give back to peers and community. And to do this, they position staff members within the Richmond Public School system. And these staff members are called service coordinators, and what they do is students are referred to them by caring adults, so by their teachers, by a janitor maybe, by someone in the community that fears for this child's well-being in school. And these service coordinators help to kind of alleviate some of the problems in the children's life, such as maybe not having health care or not bringing a lunch to school, not being able to afford to bring a lunch to school. So they connect them to outside resources. So they might connect them with the food bank, or they do this great program where they bring backpacks filled with food for the weekend in, and things like that. So things that distract children from learning. But aside from that, they also act as mentors, and they set goals in behavior and academics for students to improve and to really succeed in school, and to help them despite their difficulties at home or their difficulties with their backgrounds. So there's this idea that they kind of toss around, and it's talked a lot about in academia, and that's this idea from cradle to career. And Communities and Schools of Richmond really tries to do that. They try to provide services from cradle to career. Right now, they're only in the lower grades to high school, but the hope is that they will continue to kind of influence students. And there's other initiatives that they are planning with, that they're partnering with, that, which I will explain later. So one of the programs that I worked most closely with this summer was their Performance Learning Center. And there's 3 of these in the Richmond public school system right now, and they're looking maybe to expand, but obviously times are tough with money, and especially for nonprofits. But essentially what they are is they're alternative high school settings in which students come and take computerized classes, and they're students that might not otherwise succeed in regular high school settings. So what they do is they come in and they have a seat time waiver, which essentially says that they don't need to be there for the entire school year. They don't need to be there a certain number of days, that they can come, and once they've completed a class online, they're done with that class. So this means that students who maybe have 3 classes that maybe they failed or transferred, so they didn't transfer over, or for whatever reason they don't have on to complete their diploma, they come here, and instead of having to take a full course load for a full year, they can take maybe 1 semester of 3 courses, or even a month of 3 courses. And I actually worked with the summer school program this summer, and it was 3 weeks long, and students had the opportunity to come in and to finish maybe their 1 class left, or to take their SOLs. And this has had a lot of success in the past, and recently, and it's something that's very promising for Richmond Public Schools in general. Another partnership that Communities and Schools of Richmond has is this Richmond Promise Neighborhoods. And this was a federal grant that the Obama administration, it was a competition. And so Richmond Public Schools, Richmond in general, got together a lot of organizations to kind of create this pilot program that would bring together organizations in the community in a similar way to the Communities and Schools of Richmond, in order to really support students, children, from cradle to career. So this would help in programs where maybe you could only go until you were 2 years old, and then the next program's when you're 5. It would help kind of make a pipeline from when you were born to when you graduate, and even beyond that. And so they did not win the grant funding nationally, but they did decide to go forward with it, and many of the organizations who originally were involved in it decided to keep with it. And so this is something that they're working on, and Communities and Schools, because of their relationship with Richmond Public Schools, is leading the way on this initiative. And these are just a few things that I learned about this summer, and that I am very happy to be able to share with you. And I would like to thank the Marshes. I would like to thank Dr. Williamson, my faculty advisor, for giving me this opportunity. Of course, thank Communities and Schools of Richmond for allowing me to be there. And it's given me kind of an idea where I might want to work when I get out. Maybe I'll be the next Marsh Fellow to get a job with my organization. But it's definitely it's answered some of my questions on what an organization and what an individual can do in the public school system to help out. And thank you.